Welcome to the Fresh Start podcast with Aaron and Chloe.
Here's some of our favourite moments from the week.
I think something that I have not had a huge amount of experience with, but have a great amount of respect for, it's guided prayers this morning.
Yeah, now we've got a special guest joining us in the studio, Reverend Kim from all the way, is it All Saints? I just know Singleton Anglican. But
yeah. All Saints Anglican Church in Singleton. That's our main centre, and it's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, friend of the show. We've had you on a couple of times. You're our go-to when we're like, there's this side of the church spectrum we don't understand. We need an Anglican.
You need an Anglican. You call Reverend Kim. I love that.
Now, Kim, let's start first of all just generally on the topic of prayer. I guess what does prayer mean for you, and what it looks like in your life?
Yeah, I have such a flexible approach to prayer. In our church, we have a particular approach, which we might talk about in a minute, but my own personal approach is quite flexible. I do enjoy praying from the heart, extemporaneously, like this idea of praying when the Spirit moves me, but I also really enjoy structured times of prayer as well. So I have this really, dynamic relationship with prayer. But for me, I always talk about prayer as a love language when I'm talking to God, because often I do a lot of funerals in my work, and I always say the time of prayer is a time of love. We're talking to God in a spirit and heart of love.
I want to know, you personally, you praying, you're Reverend Kim, of course you should. What is it like? Break it down right down to the bare basics of what do you do in a day? In a day,
so it depends on how disciplined I feel. So as Anglican clergy, as priests and deacons, we are heavily encouraged to pray something called the daily office, which is set prayers of morning and evening prayer. And if you're feeling super holy, you might even pray something called compline, which is a nighttime prayer that you pray before you go to bed. So that usually consists of using the prayer book. We have a particular prayer book for our denomination, and it involves reading Psalms, something called Canticles, which are all parts of Scripture. It's all taken straight from the Bible, and you're meant to recite it out loud. So even when you're by yourself, we have this understanding that we're praying with all the people who have gone before us in the faith, and praying with what we call the great cloud of witnesses as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, so even though you're praying by yourself, you're actually praying and with people across the world as well. As Anglicans, we are encouraged to pray that way. So I might be praying morning prayer in Australia, but in England, in the Church of England, they might be praying evening prayer, and so all of our prayers are ascending to God at this set time, which is quite beautiful to me. I find that really lovely. So I try and do morning and evening prayer, but if I don't get super disciplined, I'm super tired, then it's morning and evening prayer from my heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course you said it's dynamic, so it's
Absolutely.
Like it's through the day and that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, 100%.
I imagine, I know maybe because of my background growing up, I probably looked at written prayers, maybe, if I'm honest, for a little while, maybe even looked down at them as somehow being less spiritual because they didn't feel spontaneous and from the heart.
Yeah.
I've come around on that idea a lot and grown in my understanding. But what would you say to that kind of thinking? Like, do you think there is anything less spiritual about reading the words that someone else has written?
Yeah, I used to think that too, Aaron. I was such a person of like, no, we can't be reading prayers. Like, that's not totally, we're not praying from the heart. And where's God in all of this? Until I looked into the history of the daily office, which comes from the Catholic understanding of the Liturgy of the Hours, where monks and nuns would pray every 2 to 3 hours, all through the day and night. It's a beautiful thing. I certainly felt that way, and then I looked into it and I'm like, all of this stuff is from Scripture. We are all just reading Scripture, and if you're like me and find just sitting down reading the Bible a bit difficult without a bit of direction, reading the Psalms and reading the Canticles and the prayers that all come from Scripture. They're all from, you read that, you go, oh, that's from Paul's letter. It certainly reminded me of we're using God's inspired word to connect with God. And I'm like, that's a really spiritual way of praying, actually.
Love that. So what does it look like? Now, obviously, you're in your situation of being a minister and you're getting these prayers and whatnot that you get to pray. If I just as an everyday person kind of went, you know what, like sometimes I do struggle with either the discipline of it or even just knowing what to pray.
Yeah.
How could I connect with this and maybe give this idea of guided prayer a go?
Yeah, so there's some great resources. I mean, the thing we use is in the Anglican Church here in Newcastle, we use something called a prayer book for Australia. You can buy that as a printed resource, but you can also go online. Like, isn't the internet amazing? You can Google something called the Daily Office, and you'll find all sorts of different guided ways of saying the Daily Office morning and evening prayer, should you want to try and do that. I would always just say to people, look, pick a time that's going to work, that it's a bit like getting up and going to the gym. Like, you're going to do it at this particular time, and any later you won't. So pick a time in the morning that's going to work. And it's the same with reading a devotional. You might instead, rather than doing that, you might read through a set of guided prayers and pray and read the Psalms. The Psalms are a prayer. That's what they were written for, and to go through the cycle of the Psalms and actually realise that, David's speaking of joy and then sorrow and all the things that we go through too. But to pick a time in the evening and morning that's going to work for you. I mean, that's what I do. And look, sometimes it is right before I go to bed, actually. Oh, I need to pray. That's right. And if I'm feeling uninspired, because sometimes my heart just doesn't want to work or my mind, I can pick up the prayer book and go, oh, the prayers are here and God knows my heart as well and what I'm saying here, but it's His divine inspired word. So it's got to be holy, surely.
We're going to get into some more conversation around prayer, but I want to quickly go back to the whole written thing. I know in wrestling with this, there's some people who I think feel like, because not all guided prayers and whatnot are scripture. Sometimes they are, or even just written prayers in general. You can get prayers for whatever, if there's something you're going through. I know there can be a sense of maybe, if they're not my words, does it matter? Or is it genuine if it's not my words? What would your response to that be? Yeah,
it's such a thing we wrestle with, isn't it? If it's not my sincere words, does it still count? And you were talking with Anne-Marie before, and she was talking about, you were all talking about when people are praying for you, when you don't have the energy or the vitality to pray for yourself, others will pray for you. I think it's a similar thing. It's in the same way as if there have been times in my life where I've just not found the words to pray or just not felt like praying for whatever reason, going through a rough time or whatever, and to pick up prayer and to know that while I'm reading it, either in my heart or out loud, that God has, because He's God, right, has this ability to interpret what I'm saying as my own, as my prayer, because even tears are prayers, even laughter is prayer, this idea that God can transcend even what we think, even if it's not our words, it's still our words because it is still this connection with God that we are having and that God can interpret it. So, I like it a bit too. When we sing praise and worship, whether it's classic hymns or the latest, Hillsong song, whatever it is, we're all praising God, but we're not singing words we've written, but we can still say them and mean them and connect with them, and at times we don't feel them, but it doesn't mean we're not praising and worshipping. Absolutely.
I'd love to know, this is maybe a curly question, I'm not sure. Have you got a guided prayer that you fall back on frequently?
Not a particular one. Again, for me, it would be the daily office prayers. They're the ones I fall back on. So I would actually, if I'm really struggling, then I will open the prayer book and go to that. I really love that. My favourite prayers, written and guided prayers, are from the thing I mentioned before called Compline. So they're always this, guide us waking, O Lord, and guard us sleeping, that awake we may watch with Christ, and asleep we may rest in peace. Yeah. And it's this beautiful prayer that you say before bed, and it is this sense of I'm just surrendering this to God now. That's probably my fallback prayer. I just love that prayer so much.
So good.
Now, we've been talking a bit as well about unanswered prayers. I imagine as a minister, you've probably had to walk some journeys with people who have come to you in a time of crisis and are believing for a miracle or a particular answer to prayer. And I'm sure you have lots of stories of answered prayers as well. But I guess it would be good to also, have that honest conversation of what about when either our prayers aren't answered or they're not answered in the way that we would hope.
Yeah, I really love talking about this because I think we so often feel that if our prayers aren't answered or aren't answered in the way we think they should be answered, we feel like we have like low faith or no faith, or our faith is shaky or whatever it is. And the reality is that sometimes prayer is maybe not answered in the way we think it is. But yes, certainly I've been on some journeys with some dear people that have prayed for miracles, and for whatever reason, it hasn't turned out the way that we would have expected. And what does that feel like? And for me, the great gift of being a minister is sitting in that space with people, because that's the hard stuff of when things don't work out the way we want them to or we think they will. What's it like to pray in those spaces? And that's where I say to people, your tears are prayers. What you are doing right now is expressing to God love, because usually it's because someone has died or is going to die. What you are expressing is love, and this is a prayer. Even though you don't have the words, these are prayers, and we're just going to sit in this space together. There's something about, we call it the ministry of presence, and it is something so beautiful that prayer exists even there, even in those really tough spaces. And for me, that's the real, the joy of this work for me.
So I guess, what would you define prayer as?
Yeah, prayer is an act of love, and I think to myself, like, does it have to be written down? See, this is what I mean. I'm such a dynamic person on prayer.
Great.
I love my written prayers, but I also love that's why I say it's an expression of love. I'm crying out to God in love, and love can look like anger. Love can look like sadness. Love can look like joy and praise and all these sorts of things. But it is a communication of love, and I think that that's so profound for me. Like, when I started to realise that, I went, wow, there's actually such depth to this that I hadn't realised. So for me, even though I do love my written prayers, I do enjoy those moments of prayer that we might not traditionally call prayer as well.
Yeah.
But it's there, and it is the language of love.
I want to point something out, which came out in conversation off air, right? So we had Anne-Marie Skinner in earlier.
Yep.
And she's incredible. She shared, we'll put her interview up later because she talks about unanswered prayers as well, and it's great too. Anyway, Kim, you saw her walking out and you waved to her.
Yep.
Then Kim goes, no, I know Anne-Marie Skinner. She was my tutor at uni. I'm like, hang on, what? I'm like, and she's like, yeah. Oh, what, you weren't a Christian then?
I was exploring. I was reading books and going, I don't know if I'm a Christian. I don't know if I'm about Jesus. I love God, but not sure about Jesus. So I was really in a middle space.
Okay, so you come across Anne-Marie as a tutor, and what does she do then?
She was so lovely. She's like, do you want to come to our Bible study? And I went, oh, no, I'm way too cool for that. And and I think back on it now, and I'm like, she was one of the people that asked me on this journey, and now I'm a minister.
I do wonder, did she pray for you?
She may well have prayed for me.
No, honestly. And I'm just kind of like seeing this full circle.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you haven't seen her since then,
No.
right?
she doesn't know that you're a reverend now.
No,
she doesn't
she wouldn't even know me.
That she was one of the. It's like, whoa. But do you know what I mean? Like, I think the likelihood is that she prayed for you, or she was praying for her
100%.
students
Yep.
to see this full circle. And I think we say unanswered prayer, right?
Yeah.
That might have felt like an unanswered prayer. Like, she might reflect on that
That's right, 'cause
time.
she never came to my Bible study that I invited her to.
My Bible study group didn't grow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But actually, if we take a bird's eye view of it all, to see it, like even in this moment, discovering, oh, God answered prayers.
Yep.
And I'm sure there are many other people praying for you as well.
Absolutely.
It's seeing it a bit very differently.
That's so true. It's so true. She would have totally prayed for that, and looking for the person to approach as well. And like, how did she know to approach me? Like, I was searching for God in that time, or Jesus really, and she did. And she's so brave to do it. And I said no, but that's why I say to people, you have to keep asking, and you have to keep praying, and you have to keep being part of people's lives. Makes a real difference.
Love it. Well, we've really loved chatting with you. We're going to put this conversation up online as well for people to check out again. Just quickly, if you want to point people again, what are some great places if people want to maybe have a go at this idea of guided prayer, or want to find some written prayers that might help them for their particular season or thing they're going through? Where are some great places they can check out?
Yeah, so if you're into the old school language, try the Book of Common Prayer. You can Google that and get online and have that one. The Church of England has wonderful morning and evening prayer prayer as well. But if you get on Google and you Google daily office prayers, it will bring you to some amazing sites. But can recommend the Church of England. It's a good one too.
And even just generally, just a prayer for. And
a prayer
there'll be
for.
lots of things different written. Yeah, prayer for whatever you're going to. There we go. Well, we've been chatting with Reverend Kim from All Saints Anglican out at Singleton. Thank you so much. Hey, super quick, we've got lots of praying people listening in right now. What can we as a region be praying for you and your church?
Oh, for us and our church, pray that we will know Jesus, love Jesus more. More people will come to our church and check us out. All the good stuff like that. That would be really appreciated. Thank you.
And if you do live in the Singleton region, hey, check out All Saints.
And if you want a taste, she does put the sermons up online as well, so you can get a bit of a pre-taste as well. We've been chatting with Reverend Kim from All Saints Anglican at Singleton. You're on the Fresh Start. Well, that's our show. Thanks for joining us this week.
You can check out more of the fun on socials. Look for 99.7 on Facebook or Rima Newcastle on Instagram. Check out more of Rima's podcasts at rimafm.com.au.